Thank you. New information tonight as Union Pacific hosting an open house in an effort to provide transparency for homeowners affected by the 29th and Grove groundwater contamination. Reporter Roman Campbell joining us from the newsroom with the next steps that Union Pacific is taking to prevent further contamination. Roman?
Well, Dylan, it was the early 1990s when a harmful chemical known as TCE was found in the groundwater in North Wichita. Since then, Union Pacific has installed multiple wells to remove the chemical, but they say more work needs to be done.
Today, Union Pacific is holding an open house.
Matt Graham and his team with Union Pacific is providing answers for those living in the 29th and Grove contamination site.
We're trying to highlight our plan and project related to implementation of a long-term cleanup.
The groundwater in that area of North Wichita was contaminated in the 1990s due to a chemical spill at the Union Pacific rail yard. The chemical that spilled is known as TCE. It's a product used for metal degreasing, but it's also harmful to the human body. That's why Union Pacific is installing wells to extract and treat contaminated groundwater.
The new systems will have a line of wells that extract water, treat it through a building, and then we'll re-inject that water further up gradient. And what that does is it creates this recirculation of the groundwater and ends up cleaning, the groundwater as well as any soil that it comes into contact with.
After a series of meetings with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, Union Pacific says recent air testing results were below safety screening levels, which indicate no immediate health concerns for those living in the contamination area.
We have a system in place right now that's treating about 5 million gallons of water every month. And so we want to kind of propagate that system to 4 other areas and install similar systems to increase the amount and area that we're able to treat.
As of now, Union Pacific is working with the city of Wichita, Sedgwick County, and the state of Kansas to implement more extraction wells. Dylan?
Roman, thank you.